7 people are still missing after a yacht carrying mostly British people was caught in a tornado and sank in the early hours of this morning off the coast of Sicily. That vessel has been named as the Biesian, a luxury yacht which is believed to have the second tallest mast in the world, believed to have also been hired out by local tourists there. Officials in the area say 15 passengers were rescued from that boat just after sunrise this morning. A 1-year-old was among those saved by authorities and has now been taken to hospital, along with the mother, we believe. Italian media are also reporting in just the last few minutes that a body has been found, one body by rescuers so far this stage, and divers are now continuing the search around the wreck, which lies 50 metres deep below the water and half a mile off the coast of Sicily.
And indeed, breaking news now on that yacht tragedy in Italy. 1 person has been confirmed dead and 6 people are still missing after a yacht carrying mostly British people was caught in a tornado and sank off the coast of Palermo.
Well, joining us now is our Home Security editor, Mark White, to tell us more about it. Mark, we're sort of still getting information about this yacht, but registered to the UK, am I right? What more do we know?
Yeah, a British-flagged vessel called Biesian. It's described in Super Yacht Times as one of the largest super yachts in the world. It's 160 feet long, so a significant-sized vessel. Apparently, it was anchored in the port of Porticello, in the north end of Sicily. It had left the port. There was a storm that struck this vessel around about 5 a.m. local time this morning, and the yacht capsized. Obviously, those on board were thrown into the water. 15 of those people in the water were rescued, but another 7 were missing and being searched for. Of course, you just bring the news now that 1 of those 7 has been confirmed dead. Their body has been recovered from the sea. We don't know the name, age or sex or nationality at all. So that kind of information will come out in the fullness of time. But the vast majority of the people on this yacht, there were 22 people on this yacht. So that, again, that gives you an indication of the size of it. 19 of them, it seems, were either British or dual British nationals. 1 was Irish, 1 New Zealander, 1 Sri Lankan, 2 Anglo-French. The rest were British nationals. So, it's very possible that some or all of those who are missing may well be British. So a really intensive search operation that's still going on in that area. The Italian Coast Guard, as you can see there, this is the Italian Fire and Rescue Service actually posted this video. That shows the scene of the search. Basically, that yacht is now lying in 50 metres of water, so pretty deep down. They've called in specialist dive teams to go down. Indeed, it was a diver that recovered this body a short time ago. And the working theory is that the people who remain unaccounted for may well still be inside this yacht, and the hope has to be that there are pockets of air inside the yacht and that they could still be reached. But obviously time is of the essence here.
Mark, it looks very lovely and calm in that footage we're just seeing now, but we believe this happened about 4 or 5 in the morning. And if you look, CCTV footage online shows that there's a torrential rain and wind, and where the boat was anchored, it was anchored in the bay. There was a freak tornado happened.
Yeah.
So it's a very unusual weather development to have caused this as well, because it looks so calm now when you look at those pictures. But imagine 4 or 5 in the morning when you're asleep, especially if you've got little ones with you.
Yeah, I mean, Italy has gone through, like so many places in Europe, a real heat wave in recent weeks. But just in recent days, there have been some fairly significant storms in parts of Italy and over Sicily as well. And it was a storm, we understand, that struck when this yacht was about a mile offshore and capsized the yacht. So, as I say, what we've got now is this very intensive rescue operation. They obviously know where the yacht is. It's all about getting those specialist divers down to the yacht and being able to explore it. It's not uncommon for vessels to sink and therefore for there to be pockets of air that people can survive in if they can get to those areas, especially with a bigger vessel like this yacht. It's certainly possible.
Well, we're looking at some of the details here. Apparently to charter this yacht, it costs £166,000 a week. A one-year-old baby was saved by divers, which is extraordinary.
Yeah.
It would suggest that maybe there was some sort of warning. It doesn't sound like there would have been warning to get any of the passengers onto any safety vessels, though, if it's a tornado at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. We don't know the details of the rescue. It's possible some maybe managed to get to a lifeboat from the yacht. It just depends how sudden it was. But if these reports of a tornado are borne out, then, of course, a tornado can be just very sudden. You just don't know.
No.
You know that you're encountering bad weather, but the next second a tornado is bearing down on you, as Bev says, you know, the chances of actually being alerted and able to get into a rescue or lifeboat could be very small indeed.
One eyewitness was saying the boat was all lit up and then suddenly it just disappeared.
Yeah.
So that would have happened very quickly. Mark White, thank you very much for bringing us up to date. And we will bring you the latest updates on that story throughout the programme. Breaking news, that one person is dead and 6 people are missing after a yacht carrying mostly British people was caught in a tornado and sunk off the coast of Palermo in Italy.
Joining us now is meteorologist Jim Dale, who also served in the Royal Navy as forecaster to warn the captain of weather-related issues. Good morning, Jim. Right.
Good morning, Beth. Good morning.
Morning. Just explain to us, what is a tornado? We might all presume we know, but why do they happen, and do you get any warning?
Yeah, good question. Actually, if it's at sea, it's not a tornado officially. Technically, it's a water spout. Same phenomena. Comes out the bottom of a cumulonimbus cloud. So those are the thunder-type clouds that we see often in summertime. So do you get warnings? Well, I'm not sure at when this actually incident occurred, whether it was dark or not. It was the early hours, so I'm assuming it was. So any observers looking at the weather at the time perhaps would have been taken a little bit by surprise, to say the least. The synoptic situation, by that I mean where the lows and the highs were, there was a big area of low pressure on them. There was activity already in place. And if you look a little bit further north into Austria, Vienna way, there was big deluges there as well, but big floods off the same low pressure area. So it was a danger zone. So I don't know what the situation was on this particular yacht, whether they had a meteorologist on board or anybody who was trained. But sometimes these things do occur, particularly this type of event. A water spout is quite unusual. So if it hit directly, then it would have been a little bit of let's just say, a catastrophic impact, and obviously has been.
It sounds like, Jim, that the boat was moored in the bay to escape the bad weather which had been happening overnight, and we believe this happened about 4:35 a.m. in the morning. But as you say, these water spouts, if they hit, and they're quite localised, aren't they? If they hit where you happen to be moored, really it's going to be a pretty quick thing for that boat to go down.
Yeah, these are catastrophic events. I've actually seen a tornado in real life, and they are extremely powerful, extremely scary. They move very quickly, so that it's a case of no escape. If they were moored, that's a good thing. At least they weren't at sea, because an investigation will obviously now take place to see what the situation was. But if people were on board at that time, likely to have been asleep, so not in the best situation to necessarily escape. But as I said to you, these things happen extremely quickly. It's one of those weather phenomena that we don't hope happens to yourself or to people around you, but occasionally, and especially at this time of year, in that kind of situation, they do occur. And unfortunately, this is one that has created already a casualty, and probably more to follow.
What would a rescue operation look like under these circumstances, do you think, Jim?
Very difficult. First of all, because it happened so quickly. It's almost over before any emergency services can arrive. So I don't know the circumstances in terms of whether were people in the water, but you've got to think it would have been extremely disturbed situation in terms of the wreckage that would have been involved. The ship apparently overturned and capsized and went down, and therefore you know people asleep at the time probably. I hate to say this, but we've seen incidents in the past where ships and boats have gone down and there's been no chance of survival simply because of the speed of things. So the emergency services would have arrived, I'm sure, pretty quickly, but what they'd have been able to do it in that moment in time, I don't know, again, for the incident and investigation to take place.
Jim, from what we understand, there are 4 Coast Guard vessels, a Coast Guard helicopter and a Fire Brigade helicopter, and divers are still searching the wreck site. As you say, these incidents happen very quickly and people on that boat would have not had much chance to get off. But, I mean, this bad weather that this part of the Mediterranean has been experiencing recently, how common is it?
Wow, that's a big question, Dawn. Look, we are in uncharted waters, quite literally in uncharted waters in terms of weather phenomena and what's going on, you know, not just in this part of the world. Look, Sicily, particularly this part, Palermo and the northern side, they've been suffering drought rather than necessarily big rainfall, big events like this. But the heat that's been generated, that Mediterranean Sea that you're now looking at on the picture, a couple of 3 days ago, reached an all-time record high. That's energy for you. I need to make this absolutely clear. When we talk about climate change, we talk about the transference of that energy into the atmosphere. What then ensues is part of what we're all warning about, that these things, now, not every event is climate change, but this Mediterranean, particular part of the Mediterranean Sea, has warmed up to a record extent. So that, again, probably will be part of the equation in terms of feeding that particular cumulonimbus cloud and the water stroke tornado that then followed.
Jim, just very quickly, we're running out of time, but you mentioned that, you know, sometimes these boats do have forecasters or meteorologists on them. I mean, is that a common thing then?
No, it's not a common thing, to be honest with you. A yacht that size probably will not. They should be getting the advice. They should be taking weather advice, etc. But as I say, middle of the night, everybody's asleep. Sadly, it's one of those things that occur from time to time.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks so much for joining us.
You're
These
welcome.
luxury yachts, of course, are looking at reports that had 10 crew and 12 passengers.
Yes.
Because, you know, they take a huge amount of staff to run these yachts. You've got, apparently the captain has survived as far as we know. We will